Lawmakers demand that the White House produce evidence to back up U.S. President Donald Trump's wiretap charge against former President Barack Obama. Somalis in Kenya fight stereotypes through film. And girls' rugby grows in popularity in Nigeria. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. Now, a deadly car bomb shattered the calm in Somalia's capital on Monday, killing at least 13 people and wounding 14, according to police and the emergency medical services. Authorities said the device was triggered on a busy street near the Wehalia Hotel in Mogadishu. A local ambulance service official says the death toll could rise. The Reuters news agency reports the hotel was not affected by the blast, but the explosion damaged a nearby house. Hours earlier, a minibus exploded near a military checkpoint, killing the driver and wounding 2 other people. A military operations spokesman for Al-Shabaab told Reuters the terrorist group was responsible for the attack. Central Somalia Regional Communications Minister Ahmed Dubad described the chaos that ensued after the blast.
Within seconds, this place was transformed into a scene of mayhem, and the dead and injured were everywhere.
Well, Al-Shabaab has frequently targeted hotels and markets during its decade-long insurgency. In neighboring Ethiopia, a massive landslide of trash has killed at least 46 people and left others missing at a garbage dump outside of Addis Ababa. Officials say most of the victims are women and children who either lived in the shacks of the Koshe Dam or dig through it every day looking for anything to sell. Witnesses say the mountain of rubbish collapsed so fast on Sunday that it gave victims little time to get out of the way. Police believe about 300 people lived at the dump, with hundreds of scavengers showing up every day. The landfill is the main depository of garbage for the city of about 4 million people. Now, the Ethiopian government had eased up dumping trash at Koshe in recent years, but resumed it when farmers near the site of a new landfill protested. Excuse me. Well, U.S. and Iraqi authorities say Islamic State fighters are surrounded and contained in western Mosul after Iraqi troops on Sunday seized control of the last road leading out of the city. U.S. envoy Brett McGurk, speaking Sunday in Baghdad, praised the U.S.-led air war on Mosul, calling it the most precise air campaign in history.
We have killed 180 leaders from ISIS, including nearly all of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi's deputies, including a so-called Minister of War, Information, Finance, Oil and Gas, his Chief External Operations Deputy, that means the guy that was planning terrorist attacks all around the world, including the attacks we saw last year in Brussels and Paris, Mohammed Adnani. And we're continuing to kill these leaders every day.
Major General Ma'an al-Saadi says Iraqi security forces now control more than 1/3 of western Mosul after Iraqi forces launched an offensive on February 19th to liberate areas west of the Tigris River. Iraqi forces dislodged Islamic State fighters from eastern Mosul in January. The fighting has created a humanitarian crisis that the United Nations and Iraqi refugee officials say could eventually force nearby half of the roughly 700,000 civilians remaining in western Mosul to flee. Now, the UN Refugee Agency estimates that 5,000 civilians have fled conflict areas each day, since government forces began their push into western areas of the city 3 weeks ago. Well, several key U.S. lawmakers, Republicans and Democratic, say the White House must promptly produce any evidence it has to substantiate President Donald Trump's charge that his phones were wiretapped last year at the behest of former President Barack Obama. That message comes before hearings on the Capitol Hill probing charges of Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. VOA's Michael Bowman reports.
Republican Senator John McCain, as well as the chairman and top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, say Americans deserve to know what prompted President Donald Trump's stunning accusation against his predecessor.
The president has said that this is a scandal that dwarfs Watergate. that his predecessor engaged in an illegal wiretap of his campaign. That is one potential scandal. The alternative is a different kind of a scandal, and that is a scandal of a sitting U.S. president alleging that his predecessor engaged in the most unscrupulous and unlawful conduct. That is also a scandal if those allegations prove to be false.
Whether or not Trump's New York high-rise was wiretapped, as the president asserted more than a week ago, lawmakers want to know if members of the president's inner circle are being probed.
The bigger question that needs to be answered is whether or not Mr. Trump or any of his associates were in fact targeted by any of the intelligence agencies or law enforcement authorities, and that's at the heart of many of the questions that many of you have asked on numerous occasions. So we will, at this point, we don't have any evidence of that.
So far, the White House has declined to shed any light on precisely what prompted the president's explosive accusation.
You're asking, well, what if there's evidence? Then I'm not going to get into a series of hypotheticals prejudging the outcome of a report or an investigation that hasn't occurred yet. I think once that's done, we'll respond appropriately.
He needs to be careful with what he tweets and what he says, and do less tweeting and do more leading.
Some lawmakers are warning of grave consequences if Trump's pronouncements are seen as divorced from reality.
If 6 months from now the president should say that Iran is cheating on the nuclear agreement, if he's making that up, it's a real problem. If he's not making up and it's true, it's an even bigger problem, because the question is, would people believe him? Would American people believe him? Would people around the world believe him? And that has real-world consequences.
Current and former intelligence and law enforcement officials will testify in a series of congressional hearings beginning March 20th. Michael Bowman, VOA News, Washington.
Well, the U.S. is exploring new options in its dealings with North Korea. As Secretary of State Rex Tillerson departs this week for Japan, South Korea and China. America's top diplomat is facing challenges that include tensions with China over controversial missile defense and complications resulting from South Korea's political turbulence. VOA's Nick Ching has the story.
At the time of political turmoil in South Korea over the president's impeachment and rising tensions with China over missile defense, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is embarking on his first trip to Asia as a top U.S. diplomat. It also comes after North Korea fired 4 ballistic missiles into the sea of Japan's northwest coast earlier this month. Pyongyang's nuclear and ballistic missile threat is high on Tillerson's agenda.
The continuing testing and augmenting of its weapons program is of great concern, and it's getting to the point where we do need to look at other alternatives, and that's part of what this trip is about. That we're going to talk to our allies and partners in the region to try to generate new approach to North Korea.
But Washington may not be ready for a direct dialogue with the rogue regime.
Given North Korea's recent behavior, we're not at the point where we're looking at direct engagement with them. We're not rewarding that behavior in any way, shape, or form.
The United States says it will move forward with the plan to deploy the so-called Terminal High Altitude Area Defense Missile Defense System in South Korea, a move over which China has voiced strong objections.
Well, I think China should be furious at North Korea for creating the need for that. Let's go to the problem, to the root of the problem, not to the outer manifestations of the problem. North Korea is the problem.
In China, the top U.S. diplomat will follow up on President Donald Trump's phone call with Chinese President Xi Jinping and other high-level contacts to pursue a constructive bilateral relationship, while ensuring that Beijing abides by a level playing field in trade. Nike Ching, VOA News, the State Department.
Well, I want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. Also, check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince McCory. Now, coming up, residents in a Somali district of Nairobi combat radicalization and stereotypes through film. Stay with us.
This is BizBeat.
London, where the rents are high and space is scarce, and where Claire Brentison is cleaning off her dining room table to get ready for guests.
I certainly have to consider the fact that my house is being used for something else for the time it's booked and that people are paying for that.
Brentison rents a segment of her home to entrepreneurs and business people through Space Hop, which allows homeowners to rent space by the hour. Blogger and hopper Whitney Fangawa is one of them.
The thing with coffee shops, like, you just feel tempted to spend and spend. Like, you want a snack, and then you want a coffee, then you want a drink.
Another is financial consultant Lavinia Osborne, who says you could do the same thing at home, but a different location inspires more energy.
Sometimes when you're in your own home, you can become a little bit lackadaisical.
Space Hop vets the hopper and the host, while homeowners enjoy the freedom to make some extra money, kind of like an Airbnb or a business incubator. The busiest homes can earn over $1,000 a month through Space Hop. For VOA's BizBeat, I'm Philip Alexio.
How do you see the world?
I see countries in turmoil.
I see our planet changing.
I see people at peace.
No matter how you see the world, you'll get an unbiased and uncensored view of it on Voice of America. On television, radio, online, and mobile. In more than 40 languages all day, every day. Millions of people tune us in.
How do I see the world? On Voice of America.
Welcome back. Now, it's no secret that African countries are struggling to supply enough electricity to their rapidly growing populations. But some companies see the challenge as a chance for Africa to go green. Lenny Ruvaga takes us inside East Africa's largest biogas energy plant in Naivasha, Kenya.
VegPro runs its factory here in Naivasha entirely on clean energy converted from biomass. The company grows and exports vegetables and flowers to the international market, but it also provides waste products for use by the energy park. General Manager Gareth Wilkie quality checks the plants.
Kenya sort of is one of the forerunners in clean energy, so automatically made sense for us to move into that arena so that we could sustain ourselves with our own energy, and obviously we get the benefits of the byproduct of the clean energy back onto the land.
Biomass is really just a technical term for decomposing plant residue and animal waste. Here, it is converted into biogas that then fuels generators. The Gorge Farm Energy Park became operational almost 2 years ago. It now supplies power to VegPro and Kenya's national grid. The 1 megawatt it sells to the government can power up to 5,000 houses, says the energy park's engineer, Christopher Macharia.
We are the first biogas power plant of this scale in East Africa. And of course, we've taken a very holistic process that takes biomass residue, converts it to sustainable energy, and at the end gives you two very useful byproducts, that is solid and liquid fertilizer.
The energy park is run by Biojoule, a 50% Kenyan-owned subsidiary of the UK-based energy group Tropical Power. The park cost $8 million to set up, one reason why there aren't more of these facilities in Africa, at least not yet. John Ngu is an energy expert at Daystar University in Nairobi.
One of the challenges of the renewable energies is the installation cost, and it varies depending with the magnitude of the plant that is being set up. So for most people, they consider that, and then the other issue of the efficiency of in terms of conversion of the energy.
But this company is eyeing expansion. Its plans include a 10 megawatt solar plant also here at Gorge Farm. Lenny Ruvaga for VOA News, Naivasha, Kenya.
Now, chances are you've heard of Hollywood, Bollywood, and Nollywood, but if you've heard of Eastleigh-Wood, well, Eastleigh is a primarily Somali district of Nairobi, known to some as Little Mogadishu. A group of young people there are making films to counter stereotypes and radicalization. Rylon Bohr reports from Nairobi.
Very good. Okay. This is Eastleigh-Wood. Actors are working on a scene for the group's next movie. They have also produced a TV series, several documentaries, and 2 feature films, including Learners. This film tells the story of a young man who joins a criminal gang and sees his life spiral downwards. He ends up filled with regrets. The Eastleigh part of Nairobi is home to many Somalis. As Al-Shabaab attacks spread to Kenya, Eastleigh became the target of regular police raids. Eastleigh residents experience discrimination and isolation.
We sent the Kenyan Defense Force to Somalia, and politicians is trying to disseminate a lot of hate speech, trying to divide for the community. So we came out and said, okay, let's use audiovisual as platform to tell our true story.
Borhan Iman founded Eastleigh-Wood in 2011, the same year Kenya sent its first troop to Somalia. The films show the diversity of the Eastleigh area. The goal is to change people's impression of the Somali community in Kenya and guide local youth, says trainer Abdi Hakim Bare Hassan.
You know, we are living in a time that there are a lot of problems that are facing the youth. Radicalization, drug abuse, crime, such things. So what we do is that we train them so that they can apply what we taught them here in the market so they at least get busy.
Eastleigh-Wood does not shy away from sensitive topics. Their next film tackles the issue of domestic violence. Hassan Rizak always wanted to be an actor. He left his Somali hometown of Kismayo as a child.
I started educating myself, whether it's going to primary, secondary, then college. And what I used to like mostly to be an actor. Then before I joined Eastleigh-Wood, and there was no company, which is around in Somali community or in Eastleigh.
Now 6 years into the project, Eastleigh-Wood continues to find inspiration on these city streets. Rael on board for VOA News, Nairobi.
Well, I recently asked our viewers to tell me what you expect from the Trump presidency as it relates to Africa. We have received a lot of diverse responses, and now we want to share as many as we can with you. So let's get started. Well, Ozi Blue Triumphiloponda from Lusaka, Zambia says Trump is just okay. Let's learn to develop from what we have in Africa. Nasozi Luki Sheena from Kampala, Uganda, makes a plea. President Trump, he says, we expect you to deal with dictators in Africa. Augustine Blackie in Monrovia, Liberia, says, I expect Trump to stop racism against Africans. Well, Martin Nyalusi from Songea, Tanzania, says, I expect more neo-colonialism and exploitation of Africa via International Monetary Fund and World Bank grants. Africa will remain as great market of all goods from America. Well, finally, Godwin Gar from Cape Coast, Ghana, says, what do we expect from Donald Trump? Africa must learn to be self-reliant. Why do we always ask for help? Well, thank you very much for your responses, and please keep them coming. Tell me, what do you expect from the Trump presidency as it relates to Africa? To participate in our social media segment, visit Facebook, and the address is Africa54, or send me a tweet at VOA Vince McCory. Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, why one of the world's toughest sports is growing in popularity with Nigeria's girls. We'll be right back.
Wherever you are, Voice of America is on air, reaching more than 130 million weekly, worldwide, in more than 40 languages. Online, social media, and breaking news from around the world. On the go, dozens of new features on popular platforms with new apps and trending topics. Voice of America, on air, online, on the go.
Welcome back to Africa 54. And here's what's trending. In the fast lane at the Geneva Motor Show, Beijing-based Tech Rules has brought this new Ren supercar to the annual Auto Fest. In its top-of-the-line 6-motor configuration, it delivers a maximum speed of 320 kilometers per hour and 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 2.5 seconds. Now, the vehicle also boasts an aerospace design with a 3-cockpit configuration to improve aerodynamics. Battery power is a big trend at the motor show, with several automakers introducing high-end electric creations. What next up? Gorging on bacon, skimping on fruit? Well, these are among food habits that new research links with deaths from heart disease, strokes, and diabetes, as according to a new report on American eating trends. U.S. government data shows there were about 700,000 deaths in 2012 from heart disease, strokes, and diabetes. Most respondents didn't eat the recommended amounts of the foods studied. Now, good foods that were under-eaten include nuts and seeds, seafood rich in omega-3 fats, fruits and vegetables, and whole grains. Now, bad foods or nutrients that were overeaten include salt and salty foods, processed meats, including bacon, bologna, and hot dogs, and red meat, of course, and sugary drinks. And finally, the face of luxury consumer is changing. Now, a new report at Beverly Hills, The Future of Luxury, examines the spending habits of people who are described as ultra-high net worth individuals around the world. The report says millennials in 60 countries are shaping tomorrow's luxury sector, and they are willing to pay more for goods produced by companies which have positive social and environmental impact. Now, the report says the instant gratification and demand for throwaway goods will be replaced with products made with quality materials, which are locally sourced and are long-lasting. Now, the report found many new rising trends, including an emphasis on social media to evaluate what's new and next in luxury. And that is what is trending today. Now, girls' rugby teams are shattering stereotypes in Nigeria. Reporter Chika Udua profiles a girls' rugby team that competed last month in Nigeria's largest rugby tournament.
At 13 years of age, Rahilat Umar is one of the youngest players on this all-girls high school rugby team. It's a physically demanding sport, and while Rahilat says it's not for everyone, she has developed a passion for it.
The girls expected not to be involved in all those masculine games because they believe rugby needs strength. So they believe as a girl, I'm just supposed to be face my studies, leave all those games. I believe that what a man can do, a woman can do it better.
The team is getting ready for a tournament. The coach is working hard to prepare his players as much as he can on the field. But off the field, he knows that some of his players are facing challenges. Rahilat comes from a conservative Muslim family. Her parents are strongly against her playing rugby, but for now, they allow her to play.
I send her to school to learn, not to be playing rugby. And as a Muslim and a girl, I don't think it will be very wise. I will allow her to play rugby.
Rahilat is the youngest of 6 children. Her father is very fond of her. He's not shy about how he feels about the baby of the family doing something that he considers inappropriate.
If I try to stop her, I will do that.
But Rahilat says she hopes her parents will eventually come around. Male rugby players also face challenges. Many of them come from working-class families who would prefer that their sons earn money instead of playing rugby. But these guys are determined. They work out in the streets where folks from the neighborhood gather to watch. When they're done, they run. And they end up here. They're also practicing for the statewide championship. Back at the high school, the players are ready. Today is game day. It's their first time playing outside in a real rugby competition. They're pepped up. 13 rugby teams are here. Only 2 of them are female teams. The Basic Girls College team has a few more minutes to reflect and pray. Rahilat's parents are not coming, but she doesn't dwell on that for long. Her coach has high expectations for her.
Rahilat as a player is one of the fantastic players I have. When it comes to game, Nigeria, before we are nowhere to be found when it comes to the female. But presently now, the females are coming up. They are beating the imagination of so many people.
In no time, the games begin. The boys are up first. The fans are all fellow players rooting for their favorites. This is the second time the tournament is taking place. It was put together by the Kano State Rugby Association and the Barewa Rugby Club. Martin Crawford, a UK national, came to Kano 13 years ago and is helping to popularize rugby here.
When we started, we kind of focused on the senior secondary. We realized that was a mistake because if you catch the kids when they're 12, 13, they're with you till 13, 14, 15, 16. They leave secondary school. By that time, they're die-hard rugby players. They play rugby for the pure pleasure of it. In fact, they'll walk over hot coals.
Finally, it's time for the girls to play. They try their best, but the game ends in a scoreless draw. Dignitaries, including the Emir of Kano, arrive to watch the tournament. Both female teams win a trophy. Coach Stanley is proud of his team.
That Nigerian females are coming up and not just crawling. They are really coming up, and I believe they are going to make the world proud someday. With the cooperation and the understanding of the parents, Rahilat is moving somewhere, and I know for sure one day she will get to somewhere. Sky will not just be her limit, but her starting point.
I tried my best. I put all my effort on it.
These young women know they represent change in their societies. They know they have a long way to go. Chika Odua for VOA News, Kano, Nigeria.
And that's it. Have a good night.
Welcome to English in a Minute. A fly is an insect with wings. They are very small and hard to notice. But why would a person want to be a fly on the wall? Let's listen.
Fly on the wall.
My roommate was breaking up with her boyfriend.
Oh no, that's too bad. Were they talking really loudly?